Hello, so today we're going to discuss pathways for Norse pagans, also known as heathenry for the Norsemen. We're going to go over the options you have within the path and the different specifics when it comes to the paths and the deviations thereof. So, mainly, we're going to discuss the main topics. You have the seidrism, you have introduction into the pathways, such as through the runes, through the books, through stories. You even have the options within the path once you're on it. Where do you want to fall within your path? So we'll start with just getting into and possibly even helping choose your own path. So I recommend getting into the books. You have so many books that we have. Uh, just to name a few, you have the Havamal, you have the Voluspa, the Prosita, the Poetic Eddas. Just get into the books and learn from the books to decide the basis of where you want to follow the path. Now, this doesn't specifically say what path you should take, or it might not even give you very much information, but just the stories will help you understand and give you an idea through feelings, through thoughts of how you feel. Okay, so then from there, I recommend getting into the runes. Once you start understanding the runes, you can start understanding the idea of the seidr in general. So if you're gonna get once you get into not if when you get into the runes, I recommend creating your own set of runes. Now you can buy a set of runes. That is not a problem. I just recommend when you start practicing, you start using runes, use a handmade set. It's going to do better for you. It's going to create a better feeling. It's going to give you a better connection in general. But just specifically to learn about the runes, a store bought set will not do you wrong. They're going to have them designed the right way if you buy from the right people. That is to say, but uh, they are great for learning. I will say that. I have a set of my own. They are written on a couple of rocks. They do great. Honestly, I bought them in a divination set. I don't really use them for divination, but I mean they're great for what my intended purpose of buying was. Um, Even creating them on handcrafted set of cardboard is not an issue. I promise you. It's if that's what you can afford, that's what you can afford. Moving on from the room, let's talk the cedar. So the cedar is such it's just as broad. The as we know, the runes are literally everywhere. Uh, you once you start studying them, you'll see them in almost everything. So is the cedar. The runes run within the cedar, so the cedar is just like runes everywhere. So right here, I have some notes on the cedar itself. Uh, so we called the women in this that practiced in the cedar that by the names of Voler, Sid Conner, or Visendakana, while men were known as the seedmen for the plural and seedmader for singular. Um, it- these are just names for them, I understand. The broad term for the seeder users in general was Siddhi. This is spelled Seidhyr. So uh, you'll see me reference the city. Don't assume that because I say the seed or the magic in general is the only path you can take when we're talking about magic. No, you can also choose to practice witchcraft or shamanism, herbalism. Those are also options. I don't know much about them myself. I practice strictly within the Norse religion, so I don't know much about these options, but they are indeed options. So don't cut yourself short if this is not something that follows your path, or if it's not something that calls to you. The seed here will may not call to everybody. understand that also within the seidr, everybody has access to the seidr. It's going to be varying strengths and varying capabilities, also at times varying times. The seidr users, the title given to them, usually within the clan, can is the one with the best connection. Let's just be real. If you have a better connection, a more consistent connection, you're going to be the more likely choice. Um, but that is not to say that as a person you can't have a connection to it. You just might not have the best connection compared to somebody else. Um, so with that being said, though, you can study seidr magic. If you feel like your calling is to be the siddhi, then study it, research it. The seidr is ever changing, and therefore the person that strives the hardest and the longest, it will be the one that's most rewarded. It's not an inborn talent. Yes, you will have people born with a better connection, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be the one with the best connection at the end of the day. But like I said, it's ever changing. So the guy that was born with it over here will have the best connection until maybe he's 10. But let's say you've been studying it since you were 12, and we're now 20 years later where you're 32, and the guy that's had an inborn connection hasn't really put in the effort or the time that you have. He might not have the level of connection you do now. It is completely possible to create a better connection. Also, to say that this part isn't part of a specific path, but it is at the same time connected to the path. The Norse were people of cultural values. We had intrinsic values to our culture that were not valued by most other people at the time, and still definitely, especially in this day and age, we're not accepted with the cultural values we have. One instance of this is the think twice before you speak ideal. This is something that I grew up with, and something that is definitely held dear to me now, more so than it used to be. I'll be honest, I didn't really value this until I realized how much the seedier plays into everything. So understand that when the runes were taken from being just used for magic and being used as script and therefore words, and when words are spoken, thoughts become real in a way that they never were before. So, with that being said, if you speak a thought, it now has more realism than it did before you spoke. You could bring to life a problem that, if you had left it unsaid, might not be a problem. If that makes sense to you, I don't know how better to explain it other than, let's say, the actions when you speak, you typically bring bad juju, is the best way to say it. Whenever you say something negative and everybody looks at you and be like, why would you say that? You probably should have thought twice before you said that. Because sometimes coincidences happen that aren't coincidences. The seedier brings to life things that you've spoken to it. So think before you speak. Think twice before you speak. And this goes for a lot of our cultural values. We believe that there's a separation between what men and women do. That doesn't mean that a man can't do what a woman does or a woman can't do what a man does. It means that in a household, while one person does one thing, the other person will complement it by doing something else so that there is an even balance within the household. This is why more often than not, when the men went out to work, the women managed the finances, or vice versa. If the woman was a Viking header, the man was typically at home or working from home, doing such things as baking or creating pots and things like that, things of that nature. I mean, there is a division of the household that isn't to say that one person can't do what the other person does. It is to create a balance within the house. This is something we can see very often within the Icelandic values that became lesser known than what most people in archaeological sites say about agriculture. Um, so we follow that with craftsmanship. Speaking of staying at home working or not staying at home working, a lot of people will give me flack for this, but I truly will say that I believe craftsmanship is a way to the gods. 100%. It is definitely a way to the gods. You can't create something and give it to the gods and them not recognize you for it. You might not see the way they recognize you for it, but they do. Craftsmanship is even more so now becoming popular again. People are buying handcrafted items all the time now. Look at the creation with Etsy and other smaller products being sold on Amazon. Handcrafted works are huge, and they're going to become huge once more. There is a way through the seidr for handcrafted items. The gods prefer you to give them a trinket that you made yourself. This is art. This is said within the books. I mean, what more can you ask for a path? If you are good with your hands, use it. 100% use it. And those of you that know people that craft things within the community, if you aren't buying from them and it's something that you use on a typical basis, you're wrong. You're just wrong for not helping out you or your community. I'm sorry. That's how it works. And the last of the major pathways that I have to talk about today is going to be the Beserkers. They are Odin's chosen warriors, and they follow the three major land animals that Odin hails. You have the wolf, the bear, and the boar. Uh, each of them have their own intrinsic traits and what they're supposed to do, and I'll talk about them in a later video. But understand that these are the three options you have to choose from if you so choose the Berserker path. I will say that with a hint of warning, though. The Berserkers got their mortal side of their powers from drug and alcohol. Let's be real. They would get high on hallucinogenic mushrooms and alcohol. So they became dangerous to not only the enemy, but also their allies. Odin would also bless some of them with shapeshifting and enhancement traits from the animals that they hailed to. So, yes, they are completely seedier touched. That I don't know how that would work out as much in today's age. Not to say that I've met a true berserker, because people will call themselves berserkers all day long. It doesn't mean that they are a true berserker. If they don't if they don't hail to the gods in the same way, if they aren't seedier touched and they don't use the pain numbing hallucinogens, they're not a full blown berserker. How this would work out today, I don't know. But it is a path to consider. It is holistically a very impressive path that I would love to see one day. Now, some other things to touch on is not specifically, again, not specifically path, but choices within the path, I should say, is to speak on the peoples within the path. So you have kings, they are obviously the top of the food chain when it comes to the clans. If you are sworn to somebody that is pledged to a king, you are by proxy pledged to that king as well. So be careful when you make your decisions on who you take allegiances and blood oaths and such not to, because if you don't feel the ideals that if their king is good for you, don't take a pledge to them, because otherwise you're going to run into an issue where you're going to have problems. I just think twice before you do something. Um, underneath the jarls or underneath the kings, you'll have jarls and advisors. The advisors stay with the king wherever he goes, and they're typically, more often than not, directly within his clan. Whereas Jarls, well, they are his advisors, yes. They sit at his table. They also go and make a clan in the king's name and ideals, so as to propagate his being and his everything amongst other places. So I myself am pledged to a king. I am a Jarl, and I have started another clan with a co-jarl myself. So looking at that, I am taking my king's ideals, what he wants, and I'm putting that into use in other locations where he is not. Um, so within these, you have your commoners, you have your noble warriors. When I say commoners, I don't mean lesser people. No, the commoners from the Icelandic traditions are more like the people that need to be protected. They're the production workers. You have the field workers, you have the bakers, you have potters, you have the craftsmen. Everybody that isn't in a specifically a Viking act is a commoner. They're not part of the noble warrior class, and therefore they are not nobles. But they are people, and they need protection, and that's what the Viking era and the Jarls are there to do. They're there to protect their people. They're there to guide the people on their path to the gods and in the seidr. These people aren't lesser. They're just not capable of doing the same thing. So you can be a craftsman, and it is okay. You don't have to be a Viking, or you don't have to be a Jarl, you don't have to be a king. But if that's not what you want, you can be a solo family or a solo person believing in your faith, and that is also okay. But understand that when you work with a clan for, let's say, a bloat, you might not be privileged to the same things of within that bloat that their people who are part of their clan are privileged to. You might eat last. That might happen. So don't take offense when if you go to another clan and they're doing something and you're not included in everything. It's going to happen. That's just how it works. The clan members will always take a higher priority than additional people that are not part of the clan. But you will be included, 100%. I holistically believe that you would be included. I myself, when I hold bloats, I do include outsiders. I just they don't get the same benefits that my clan members do. I wouldn't make them eat last, but if I were to hold a bloat and then a blood right with it during that bloat, I would not blood right anybody that's not part of the clan because I'm not going to include them in a value and a worship that is meant for the clan members, right? So all that being said, these are options within your path and different pathways you can choose. They are not the only paths you can choose. These are just the ones that I know the most about and that I'm able to give you the most information about. And by all means, let me know in the comments whether there's something else you want me to touch on or give even more information about these. This is just a brief overview of most of these ideas. I'm more than willing to give an in-depth version of each of these individually if that's what you need or would like. Uh, that being said, uh, I hope you guys have a great day. May the gods smile in your favor and the Norns weave happiness into your mantles. Please like and subscribe so we can get this out further for other people to see and get as much information as they possibly can. Thank you guys. Goodbye.